people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
News. Okay, we'll start with this. It was announced earlier today that unbeaten up-and-comer Bruce "Shushu" Carrington will be taking on Matthias Heita July 26th on the undercard of Xander Zayas versus Jorge Perez. This fight that Bruce is about to have qualifies as a defense of his WBC interim title. The full WBC champion is Stephen Fulton, who's rumored to be moving up in weight to challenge O'Shaquie Foster for his green and gold title. And so, Bruce, he's keeping busy. He's keeping active. With an unbeaten fighter like himself in Matthias Heita, Bruce sports a professional record of 15 wins with no losses, no draws, 9 knockouts, to Matthias, who sports a professional record of 14 wins with no losses and no draws. 9 knockouts, just like Bruce. But as we all know, unbeaten up-and-comers are not all created equal. Even if Matthias has got a similar number of fights to Bruce Carrington and the same number of knockouts, his quality of competition reveals that his resume is mostly pedestrian-level guys on there. Nondescript guys, and Matthias Heita himself is a nondescript opponent from Namibia, who seems to have never faced a world-class fighter, but now he's going to be fighting Bruce, making this a battle of the unbeatens, yes, but little more than a stay-busy fight for Bruce, until such a time as he can corner a fight with a champion, of which there are 4, but at least 2 of them are not available. The WBO champion, Rafael Espinoza, just fought on Inouye's undercard. The IBF champion, Angelo Leo, just fought in Japan. And the WBC champion, Stephen Fulton, is rumored to be moving up to 130 pounds, leaving only the WBA champion, Nick Ball, available.
But I really want to fight Nick Ball. I think it's more so just because his style is really attractive to me. You know what I'm saying? He's a small guy. He's a bully. He's no nonsense. He really like try to break guys down, and he's no punk. Like, you know, I really want to see how my style is compared to his in terms of that matchup. Like, it's gonna be very interesting.
Therein lies the dilemma for Bruce Carrington. The only available champion who's not otherwise preoccupied, even though he kind of is Nick Ball. Bruce Carrington comes in at number 2 via the WBA's current rank standings, right behind Argentina's own Mirko Coelho, who's in a pole position to challenge Nick Ball as his mandatory challenger. So when I see that Bruce is fighting in another keep busy fight, I can't hold that against him. That's the least that he can do while he waits for a champion to give him a shot. What else is he supposed to do? Rafael Espinoza just fought, so did Angelo Leo, Stephen Fulton is about to, and Nick Ball might be preoccupied with a mandatory. There's not much that Bruce can do about that. All he can do is keep busy, keep active, try to build his brand, build his fan base, and hopefully something will come up later on in the year. But I cannot attack Bruce for the current state at featherweight. There's only so much he by himself can do. So many of the featherweight champions are all focused on a guy who's downstairs at Super Bantam, all focused on Inouye. They're not even fighting each other, let alone Bruce. So I understand if some of you out there are growing impatient and you want to see Bruce in there with somebody good, somebody who can fight back. This really isn't Bruce's fault. You can't hold it against him. All he can do is stay busy. Upstairs in the men's super featherweight division, yesterday in Japan, Sugar Nuñez became IBF champion, beating Masanori Rikishi, joining the pantheon of champions in the super featherweight division, of which there are 4. There is Lamont Roach, holding the WBA, O'Shaquie Foster, holding the WBC, and Emmanuel Navarrete, holding the WBO. Where does Sugar come in compared to those fighters? How does he stack up against them? I don't say this lightly. But I think Sugar has what it takes to rule this division. You heard that right. I think Sugar would beat Lamont Roach, he would beat O'Shaquie Foster, and based on Emmanuel Navarrete's last outing, Sugar might beat him too if he were so fortunate enough to get one or some of these champions in the ring. I think that Sugar has what it takes to be the last man standing. You talk about Lamont Roach. I think Sugar would wear him out. And you're likely thinking to yourself, well, how the hell's Sugar gonna wear out Lamont Roach where Gervonta Davis didn't, and at a higher weight? How does that work? The styles. Even if you're of the opinion that Gervonta Davis is a harder puncher than, say, Sugar Nuñez, remember that Gervonta's not a prolific puncher. He's not a busy puncher, not a busy fighter within a round or in a fight. Most of the time, it's only 1 or 2 punches at a time. He's looking to land big. But he doesn't throw that much. Not as much as a Sugar Nuñez, to where Sugar's volume alone may wear out a Lamont Roach. The pace of the fight. Lamont Roach is not a big puncher. That's the other thing. He doesn't all of a sudden become a completely different fighter just because he took Gervonta Davis by surprise. Lamont Roach is not, nor has he ever been, a big puncher or a knockout merchant. So with that in mind, I don't think he can land with enough authority to keep Sugar off of him. He's gonna be on him like a cheap suit. I think there's a strong chance that Sugar Nuñez might even knock out Lamont Roach, and you tell yourself, well, he didn't knock out Masanori Rikishi. Where do you get that he would knock out Lamont Roach? Lamont Roach is a more moderately sized super featherweight than Masanori Rikishi. If you saw him, that guy's big for this weight. Lamont Roach is not. The way I see it, he might end up stopping Lamont Roach, outworking O'Shaquie Foster, and the only even money fight between him and somebody else would have to be Emmanuel Navarrete. But Emmanuel looks like his heart isn't in it anymore. Would seem that he's in decline and leaving his prime. If you had to go through all that with a nondescript Charlie Suarez of the Philippines, I can only imagine how you'd look with Sugar Nuñez. Now for the bad news. Even though I give Sugar Nuñez a good chance against all the other champions at the weight, it's not likely that he gets a single one of them in the ring. For starters, Lamont Roach isn't likely to come back to the super featherweight division, I don't think, because he's about to fight Gervonta Davis for the second time. And just imagine if he wins. O'Shaquie Foster is rumored to be facing Stephen Fulton in his very next fight, and Emmanuel Navarrete, based on how he just looked with Charlie Suarez, may be moving up to the lightweight division. So even if Sugar Nuñez stands a good chance of beating one or some of these champions, he's not likely to get any of them in the ring in the near future. His best hope to fight in a significant fight, a meaningful fight, a good one, is Raymond Ford's recent call-out of Sugar after the fight. They're both with Matchroom, the former WBA featherweight champion who is now campaigning at super featherweight and wants a shot at Sugar Nuñez's title. And what are Sugar's chances against him? Well, I said it in my previous video. Nuñez versus Ford is just a bigger version of Ball versus Ford. Remember Nick Ball? Remember when he and Raymond Ford fought? And remember that Nick Ball won. Granted that Raymond Ford was a bit tight at the weight and needed to move up, and perhaps Sugar will be facing a healthier Raymond Ford than the one Nick Ball faced. Raymond Ford is going to be facing a naturally bigger fighter and a bigger puncher than Nick Ball, so that matters too. An exciting fight and an exciting clash of styles. Raymond Ford looks like a boxer-puncher to me, whereas Sugar is so obviously a pressure fighter. Stylistically, Raymond may have the edge, but physically, Nuñez is a better physical specimen. He punches hard, and he's got an engine. Throws punches in bunches from the opening round to the final round, and you may be able to handle yourself and weather the storm in the first half, but what about the second, as the damage and fatigue starts to set in? It's a fascinating fight. I see no reason it shouldn't happen. Let's hope it does.
First of all, y'all can stop speaking on Tank name like that and stop calling for that Devin fight. Don't nobody, only people want to see that shit is people in this community. Don't nobody want to see that.
Crazy.
That shit is old. Y'all talking about Loman is old. That's old.
Hey, yo,
That
that's
shit is
wild.
fucking
How
man.
you gonna call Devin fight older than the Loma spoiled milk fight? Devin and Tank got actual sparring. They got actual beef. They bet money on this shit. Floyd lost money on this shit. Like, rappers lost money. Nah. You trying to hide that fight so the world won't see what's really going on.
See what? See the Tank gonna knock his ass out?
See
That's
that,
what's
see
happening.
that Devin 10 times bigger than Roach, 5 times longer than Roach. Huh. We already know.
That's facts. That's facts. But his IQ ain't nowhere near Roach.
Oh, now Roach is a boxing genius now because he had a draw with Tank.
I really liked how Nestor Gibbs handled that disgruntled caller demanding that people stop asking for a Haney versus Tank fight when there's always been a push, more of a push, for Haney versus Tank than Roach versus Tank.
You stupid.
And the only reason we're here now is because Gervonta Davis couldn't finish the job. You claim that Gervonta would have knocked out Devin Haney, but he didn't knock out Isaac Cruz, and he didn't knock out Lamont Roach, a super featherweight.
You still hyping up this bum?
So many other fighters get passed over in the American boxing scene in favor of a Gervonta Davis who seems to need 2 fights for 1 win over Lamont Roach, where Jamel Herring did it the first time, and nobody shouts his name from the rooftops or Shakur's for having beaten him.
But you're still hyping up this bum?
All while reports circulate that Gervonta Davis, if he wins, is going to go into a circus fight with Jake Paul, and I suppose that you would rather see that. You would rather see Davis versus Paul than Davis versus Haney or Davis versus Stevenson, because the moment is come and gone for a Haney fight anyway.
Gervonta's too much of a chicken shit to move up and fight him, and I know Devin's not gonna kill himself moving back down.
Now, Shakur Stevenson is right there, and so is Keyshawn Davis, but I imagine that caller doesn't want Gervonta to fight them, because underneath it all, it's fear.
She's afraid that the walls are closing in on Gervonta Davis and wants to wrap him in a protective cocoon to protect his image, this illusion that he's the best out.
Going as far as putting Lamont Roach on a pedestal because Gervonta couldn't get the job done. Lamont is all of a sudden supposed to be pound for pound.
Well, he's a boxing genius now.
Here's reality. Shakur Stevenson would beat Lamont Roach easy. Keyshawn Davis would knock him out.
Raymond Muratalla might too.
Lamont Roach is not all of a sudden a different fighter because your favorite fighter couldn't get the job done. If anything's supposed to be different, it's supposed to be your perception of Gervonta, not your perception of Lamont, because he was the massive favorite going in, the naturally bigger fighter. He's fully acclimated to 135, whereas Lamont never even fought there.
Tank is supposed to be, well, a tank. He's supposed to be this monstrous puncher. Where was the power?
Where was the tank? I'd be shaking in my boots if I were you right now. I'd be worried that Gervonta Davis doesn't have the mental fortitude to adjust to Lamont Roach, because Gervonta's never been in a rematch situation, and personally, I don't think he's mentally strong.
How can you tell?
He got hit with a jab, took a knee, and ran to his corner, and his only explanation for doing so was hair care products. Hair gel. You've got fighters fighting with blood in their eye, broken hands, broken bones, broken orbitals.
But God forbid a little bit of hairspray or hair gel get in your eye.
Is that supposed to be a valid excuse for Gervonta Davis? I can't believe anybody's still protecting this hype job.
Well, that's how it was when Wilder got exposed. A lot of people's worlds got shaken. Hell, I remember a lot of content creators that don't cover the sport of boxing anymore because they don't have Wilder to talk about. And it could be that way with Gervonta. It could be worse because he's one of the few flagship fighters the PBC has left.
He better not lose. And finally, in men's super middleweight news, promoter explains why Canelo versus Terrence Crawford is bigger than Floyd Mayweather versus Manny Pacquiao. Former Golden Boy Promotions CEO Richard Schaefer has now claimed that Canelo versus Crawford will be bigger than Mayweather versus Pacquiao. Mayweather won via a unanimous decision in the 2015 clash. Speaking to The Ring, Schaefer said, "I've been involved since 2000, so that is 25 years, and I don't remember any fight bigger than Canelo versus Crawford. It's going to be the biggest fight in the sport for as long as I can remember."
As long as you can remember, then you've got Alzheimer's, buddy. I like Terrence Crawford, I do. but he doesn't have the following that Manny Pacquiao had or the following that Floyd Mayweather had. No, there's only one fighter here with a massive following, and that's Canelo. This can still be a big fight, and one of the bigger fights of this calendar year, but as big as Maypac? I don't think so.
Schaefer added, with Mayweather-Pacquiao, people hyped it up. It was a big success financially, but I think this can be equally as big of a success in that regard, if not bigger. But I think Canelo versus Crawford is a fight between two men truly in their prime.
Is he stupid or something? Terrence Crawford is older now than both Manny and Floyd were when they fought. And Canelo, nobody thinks Canelo's in his prime anymore.
Terrence Crawford is moving up 2 weight divisions to take on Alvarez. His last fight was at 154 against Israel Madrimov. The burning question is whether or not Bud will have the power to trouble someone like Canelo, who is known for having a solid chin. I do believe that experience is going to be a big factor in a fight, and I do think size will be to a certain extent. Crawford moved up to fight Israel Madrimov and was challenged by Madrimov. Some people even thought Madrimov won that fight, and I'll tell you one thing, Canelo is no Madrimov. Canelo has the best chin in boxing, no question about it. He's never been dropped, never been hurt. It's going to be challenging for Crawford to try and hurt Canelo. Schaefer also promoted the historic contest between Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. However, he expects Canelo versus Crawford to be substantially bigger, he said. So I think it's going to be a fascinating match. It's going to be the biggest fight in modern history. I was fortunate enough to promote Mayweather versus Canelo back in the day. This will be substantially bigger.
Mayweather versus Pacquiao did approximately 4.4 million buys. Mayweather versus Canelo did about 2.2 million. Do you think that this fight is going to do anywhere in the neighborhood of those numbers? Do you see a lot of pay-per-views these days, especially the ones in America, even cracking 1 million?
Let alone 2, let alone 4. Give me a break, Richard. I'm a fan of Terrence Crawford, but he does not bring the following to the table that Manny Pacquiao brought to the table, that Floyd brought to the table, even Canelo in his younger years. Terrence doesn't have that kind of a following, so there's next to no chance that this fight generates that kind of money. It can still be big. It can be one of the bigger fights of this year, but nowhere near as big as those fights, and for more than one reason. It's not just that Terrence doesn't have the same following that those fighters did, it's that was a healthier market than this one is. People spent more money on boxing in those days. They don't spend that kind of money now. Too many people are stealing.
It's too easy to steal a big-time fight. It's piracy all over the place.
And you really can't compare this fight to those fights because this fight was really just made on a whim, whereas Mayweather versus Pacquiao was built up over 5 years, and Mayweather versus Canelo
It was built up over something like 1 year, maybe 2.
It's not to say that this can't be a big fight, or it can't be a good one, but this is a fight that doesn't really have much build-up or backstory. It was put together on a whim because a bunch of people with a lot of money in Saudi are willing to pay for it, but there's no backstory.
I don't think for a second this fight comes close to selling 4 million pay-per-view buys or 2.
For a good number of reasons, and market instability, in the American market especially, is a big part of why. That was a much more healthy boxing market, more fertile time in the sport, whereas now, interest is declining.
Globally, boxing has grown. Globally, there are emerging markets all over the place that are flourishing, but here in America, it's in decline.
So I don't know what the hell Richard Schaefer's talking about. It sounds like a lot of hyperbole from a guy who's trying to sell a fight. So naturally, he's gonna say whatever he has to say.